Have you ever wondered how a cyber attack really gets started? It's not usually with some crazy flurry of code or a massive attack. Nope. It starts with something a lot quieter, way more methodical. Today, we're going to open up the hacker's playbook and take a look at their very first move. So, let's turn to page 1.
And that first chapter is called footprinting. So what is it? Well, simply put, it's the art of gathering every last scrap of information you can about a target before you even think about attacking. The best analogy? It's like a spy in a movie meticulously casing the joint, right? They're learning the layouts, the guard schedules, all the weak points, and they do all of this before making a single move. So, here's how we're going to break down this playbook. First, we'll cover the mission briefing itself. Then, we're going to look at the actual techniques they use for digital recon. After that, we'll see how they map out a network, how they go after the human element, and finally, and this is the important part, how you can build your own defenses. All right, let's kick things off with the hacker's first move, the mission briefing. You have to understand this entire phase is all about passive intelligence gathering. The whole goal is to learn absolutely everything about the target without them ever knowing you were there. And this is so crucial. Every single cyber operation, doesn't matter how big or small, is built on a foundation of information. I want you to think of it like a giant funnel. The attacker gathers all these broad details at the top, things like employee names, what software versions a company is using, network info, and they pour it all into this funnel, hoping to filter it down to find one single exploitable weakness. The more info they can pour in, the better their chances. Footprinting is what fills that funnel. So that leads us right into our second section, digital reconnaissance. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the actual tools and methods hackers use to survey their targets. And you'd be surprised how often they start with information that's already just hiding in plain sight. You know, one of the simplest first steps is to just look at a website's source code. Now, to you and me, it might look like a jumble of HTML, but to a hacker, it's a potential treasure map. They're scanning for little things, comments left behind by developers, maybe some hidden contact details, or clues about the technology stack being used. Any loose thread they can find, they're going to pull on it. And the hunt doesn't just stop with what's on the website today. Tools like the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine are just invaluable for an attacker. They can literally go back in time and look at old versions of a website. And why would they do that? Well, because information that a company carefully removed from their site, like old employee lists or outdated contact info, it might still exist in an archived copy, just waiting to be found. And as you can see here, there's a huge variety of techniques. It's not just one trick. Attackers are pulling metadata from public documents to find usernames. They're monitoring web pages for any changes that might signal a new software update and maybe a new vulnerability. They're scraping contact info to build a list of people to target later. Every single technique uses a specific tool to gather a different piece of this giant puzzle. But reconnaissance goes way beyond just websites. In our digital world, every single email that gets sent, it tells a story. And for a hacker, learning how to read that story is an absolutely critical skill. So if you've ever dug into an email and looked at the full header, it probably looks something like this, right? Just a dense, unreadable block of technical text. For most of us, it's just digital noise. We just ignore it and scroll right down to the actual message. But see, a hacker takes that exact same gibberish, feeds it into an analysis tool, and it completely transforms into this, a clear, detailed map. All of a sudden, they can see the sender's IP address, their rough geographical location, the exact path that email took across the internet. They can even see details about the mail servers it touched. That is actionable intelligence, all from something most of us just throw away. This brings us perfectly to our third section, mapping the network. So after they've gathered all this general information, the next logical step is to start drawing a blueprint of the target's actual digital infrastructure. And one of the main tools for this is called traceroute. Its purpose is really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It literally maps the exact path that data packets take to get from the attacker's computer to the target server. And every single step along that path, every router, every firewall, that's a potential point of interest. And this right here is what the raw output looks like. You run it in a command prompt, and you get this. Each of those numbered lines, that's a hop. It's one step on the journey. You get a list of IP addresses and how long it took to respond. It's useful data, for sure, but it's still just a list of numbers. But this is where the real power comes in, visualization. Advanced tools can take all that raw data and turn it from a list of IP addresses into a geographical map. And just like that, the attacker gets a bird's eye view of the entire network structure. It reveals not just the path, but the physical location of key devices. And that makes spotting potential choke points or weak spots so much easier. Now, all the technical snooping in the world can be stopped by really good security. So what do attackers do? They often pivot to the weakest link in any security chain. And that brings us to Section 4, exploiting the human factor. And this is the art of social engineering. See, this isn't about hacking computers. It's about hacking people. The whole principle is that humans are often the easiest way to get around technical security because we're naturally trusting, and we're often totally unaware of just how valuable one tiny piece of information can be. And the techniques themselves are often deceptively low-tech. We're talking about eavesdropping on conversations at a coffee shop, shoulder surfing at an airport to catch someone's password, or even literally digging through the trash for old documents. An attacker might just impersonate someone from IT support over the phone to trick an employee into giving up their password. These simple, physical-world actions can be the key to unlocking a super high-tech digital fortress. Okay, we've seen the playbook from the attacker's point of view. Now it's time to flip the script. In our final section, we're talking about building your defenses and how you can actually harden yourself against all these techniques. So the countermeasures involve both technology and people. Of course, you need to configure your web servers properly to stop them from leaking information. And you absolutely have to educate your employees to stop oversharing it. But maybe the single best defense is to go on the offense. Turn these very same tools on yourself. Footprint your own organization. See what a real attacker would see. And then you can close those gaps before they ever get a chance to find them. When it comes right down to it, a strong defense starts with understanding the offense. You've now seen the first chapter of the hacker's playbook. You know that it all begins with information that's just hiding in plain sight. And that leaves us with just one question. How well defended is your digital footprint?